Okay, which question did your students struggle most with, and which standard did the question address?
Students struggled most with number 3.
Okay, and what standard is that addressing?
NF4A.
Okay, so what are all the steps students need to be able to do to answer this question?
Students need to understand what a factor and a multiple are of fractions.
Okay.
They need to be able to repeatedly add a fraction to create a multiple, or multiply a fraction by a whole number
Okay.
to create a multiple.
Okay, so let's look at the work and see where the mistakes were made in your low sample so we can identify the misunderstandings.
Both students selected A and B as correct, so a whole or less, and both students said that C was wrong. It looks to be because it's an improper fraction, and so I think they thought if it was greater than 1, it could not be a multiple of 1/10.
So this sample says it's wrong because it goes over 10/10.
Yep.
And this sample changed it to
1 1/10 and said because it's 1 1/10, it's not a multiple.
a multiple. Okay, so what do you think the misunderstanding is here?
I think the misunderstanding is that students think that multiples of fractions stop at 1 whole.
So stop at 10/10 in this
Yeah.
example. Okay. Was there any part of base that broke down?
For this example, I think what broke down was the solve.
Okay, because they do have their key boxes look good. They're showing their work. They just misunderstood the improper fraction. What strategies did they use or not use that will be helpful in your intervention or reteach?
The strategies that both of these samples used was multiplying the fraction 1/10 by a whole. So they did that correctly. They multiplied it correctly by 9 and by 10. They just do not understand that they could still multiply 1/10 by 11 and get 11/10.
Okay. So let's look at, we have your low samples. Let's look at your medium sample and see what your medium sample did that your lows did not.
Okay, on this medium sample, there was the same misunderstanding. The student said that 11/10 is not correct because it is not 1 whole. So it's again, they don't understand that an improper fraction can still be a multiple of a fraction.
So let's look at your medium sample compared to the high sample, and let's see what push we can give this medium group.
The high sample clearly understands the fact family of fractions. They have the factors that make the multiple, and they're using a number bond to show that in each question.
A number bond and equations. So to me, that
Yes.
shows they really are understanding it, whereas this group has equations,
Right.
but not necessarily number bonds in there.
And the high sample also understands that a multiple can be greater than 1, and it's shown in an improper fraction, whereas these friends got tripped up with it being greater than 1.
Right. So let's look at your high sample compared to your exemplar, and let's see if there's any tweaks we need to make there.
Well, looking at this, I can gain something from my high sample. I think I should be showing more number bonds in my exemplar because the students are using that and I am using it to teach. But I do not see any visuals or models in the students' work, and I see a ton on mine.
I see the same thing. I don't see any models in here. They're all equations.
Yeah.
And so what tweak do you think you will make based on that? What change?
I will add more models into my instruction, or maybe even out the ratio of models and another strategy like a T-chart or a number bond. But I think I went model heavy maybe on my exemplar, and I didn't represent how I would be teaching the standard fully.
Are they expected, like when you're teaching the material, are they expected to do the models in their work?
I would like to see models for students that it would help, but for this student, I think he has such a clear understanding, especially showing it with this strategy and these equations, that I don't see why he would need to draw the models.
Okay. So maybe incorporating, you have the models and incorporating in the equation or the number bonds so that they have options. And where else in your day can you incorporate or give them the opportunity to see that there are different ways to solve these problems?
Well, at the SGI Center, they're working on base problems that look just like these questions. So I think it'll just be really important for me to communicate the multiple strategies that I will be showing so that that can be reinforced in the SGI
Okay.
Center.
Right. Okay. That sounds good.